Hello and welcome to Writing an Excellent Dissertation with the Help of SPACELESS. This is the second presentation in our series. My name is Maureen Finn. I'm Senior Tutor at the University Language Centre here at the University of Manchester, and Roger Harrison is the Director of Studies for Postgraduate Education in Public Health and supervises online learning. So hello and welcome to this discussion on using SPACELESS to help you write your dissertation. Roger and I worked together on this to write this information in order to help support your writing, and we really hope you find it useful. It's a good idea to print out the slides before you start, as you might want to stop the presentation and read from the slides. So why SPACELESS? As we talked about in our previous presentation, SPACELESS allows you to get support from your peers, and this is really important. It helps you to understand your context, and by context it's this idea of knowing how things are done around here, and this is really important if you're going to write for a specific audience and if you're going to get your message across in an appropriate way. And this is what makes you confident that you're able to write effectively for your specific situation. So let's think a little bit about your specific situation. Who are you writing for? Well, you're writing for supervisors, you're writing for examiners, you're writing for your own organisation, the people that you work with day to day, and you're writing for the public health community. Now, you're writing a Masters for Public Health, an MRes, and within that, your writing will show what you've learnt, and it will show, and this is really important, it will show what you think about what you've learnt, and this is where you demonstrate criticality. This is, in your writing, you will give evidence of your critical thinking. So to do this, you need to present an argument, you need to support your argument with references from the literature, and you need to challenge current research. So you present the research and you show what you think about it, about its strengths and its weaknesses and its applicability to your work. So, examples of writing. How can SPACELESS help? Well, SPACELESS can give you access to writing from your peers, and it can give you access to peer support. So let's look at some student writing now. Let's examine the text and then think about who this was written for. There are 103 words here, and if we look at it, we can see that there are historical names, we can see that there are dates, we can see there are references, though some of them are not conventional references, and we can see that this is writing about science. We can see it's about sickle cell anemia, but I think what's difficult here is to see what scientific question is being answered. So let's have a look at the title that extract came from. And we've said the title is the backbone of your dissertation. It's what guides all the content, all the writing in your dissertation. And look at the title here. This is a scientific question. But when we read our introduction, we found it hard to find what the scientific question was. And in fact, the audience seemed to be more of a general audience. It looked a little bit like an encyclopedia entry written to give people general information about sickle cell anemia. Now let's look at a second piece of writing. This is the same number of words as in the previous background. heading here. Look at the referencing. And look at the content. We can see here it's about an association between mobility and HIV. We can see that migration is important. There's a mention of labour migration of workers. There's a geographical location. This is in Africa, South and East Africa. And what might the scientific question be? Let's have a look at the title and see how this relates to the title of the dissertation. And here we can see a strong link. There are risk factors, there's association, there's HIV infection. Labour's back in here, okay, but very specifically textile workers, and we have a geographical reference. And so here you can see that the writing has been shaped to answer a scientific question. The text has been organised with headings and it's been referenced correctly. And this is very clearly a piece of academic writing for an MRes, for supervisors, for examiners, for your own community and for the public health community. So, there's the audience. Let's think about how we can shape our writing. Let's think about how we make sure that our writing is appropriate for the context. We write, first of all, for ourselves. We write to mark our learning. We write to get our ideas down on the page. This is an essential part of learning. But then we have to think, who is my audience? And we have to think about these questions and make sure that we've answered them in our writing to get our message across to our appropriate audience. So how does what I have written answer my scientific question? How does it relate to my argument? Is my message clear in the writing? And have I used all the academic conventions like referencing correctly? Let's look again at our writer who was dealing with sickle cell anemia. This is a student who knows his or her subject. There's useful information here. And if we take out the general information, the names and the dates, we're left with what looks very much like a scientific definition. So the message here is that our writer wants to start this introduction with a definition, which is a classic way of beginning an introduction. Now, what makes an effective definition? We've said our previous piece of writing is very general. It looks like an encyclopedia entry. So how would we shape a definition so that it fits, is appropriate for our audience and gets our message across? So have a look at this one. It comes from one of those example dissertations online. Remember, one of the best forms of peer support is being able to see good examples of what's expected in your writing. So have a look at how this is written. And you can see here there's the language of definitions. You've got classified, two main categories. You've got organising language on the other hand. You've got contrast, while. And you've also got an indication of the complexity of this definition. So if you look at that first sentence, it says there are variations on the ground, but, okay. And in here you've got appropriate references. Writing definitions, then choose the language that lets your reader know it's a definition. Organise your writing so it's easy for your reader to follow. Obviously, cite and reference in a way that's appropriate. And then make sure that the definition links clearly to your scientific question, that the link between your title, your question, the definition is crystal clear. So, we know our writer has a lot of information, has a lot of knowledge. we think our writer wants to write a definition. Here's the information with all the dates edited out, with all the names edited out. Here's the scientific information. So you would need to look for any repetition here and get rid of that. And also look at the title at the bottom of the slide. This is the backbone of the thesis. And in here, you've got a lot of information about what this thesis will focus on. So what would you add into your definition to make your definition more effective and more powerful? So you use those 100 and odd words to give a definition that is essential to your dissertation. Remember, who's your audience? What's your message? How does this shape your writing? And use your support systems. Use Spaceless peer support. Use the example dissertations online. Remember, looking at what's expected of you in your writing is really helpful. Use the dissertation handbook and contact your dissertation tutor for information about Spaceless if you haven't joined yet and you would like to. And good luck with your writing.